Yeah, it's certainly a microcosm of how things have gone these last 2 years. We certainly expect to win that game, and we didn't make the plays to do it. And you can say that for a lot of games over the last 2 years. Yeah, I really enjoyed watching him in college. I thought he made a lot of plays. I thought he could throw it. And then obviously, given who his dad is, he knows how to handle the media, knows how to handle the spotlight. Certainly been under more of a microscope than any other. What do you get drafted? Fourth round? Fifth round. Certainly under the microscope more than any other fifth round pick that's ever been in the history of football. And every clip that I see, he seems to be handling it well. Says most of the right things in the media. Is who he is. He's himself. That's what you want out of a football player. So he seems to be handling it the right way.
Has he ever come up in conversations that you and Flacco have had at any point, considering Flacco was with him in Cleveland up until he came here?
Yeah, you talk about a lot of different players across the league, and that's typically you get a new guy, you figure out he was with this guy I was with, or he was with this guy. I wonder what he thought about him. That's kind of the initial conversations that you have with new guys that come into the locker room, try to find some common ground in that way. And then obviously, given who his dad is, he knows how to handle the media, knows how to handle the spotlight. Certainly been under more of a microscope than any other. What do you get drafted? Fourth round? Fifth round. Certainly under the microscope more than any other fifth round pick that's ever been in the history of football. And every clip that I see, he seems to be handling it well. Says most of the right things in the media. Is who he is. He's himself. That's what you want out of a football player. So he seems to be handling it the right way.
Joe Burrow just sat at that podium looking devastated after Shedeur Sanders marched down the field in the final seconds to beat his Bengals. And bro, what he admitted next is going to shock you. While Burrow's talking about how they certainly expected to win that game and didn't make the plays, Shedeur was celebrating in the Browns' locker room after conquering his demons and leading that game-winning drive. Burrow literally said this loss was a microcosm of how things have gone the last 2 years. Meanwhile, the rookie Shedeur Sanders just proved he's the future, while Burrow's out here questioning everything about his organization. When you hear what Burrow said about needing changes and his frustration with losing, while Shedeur's talking about mental victories and brotherhood, you're going to understand why one quarterback is rising and one is falling apart.
We all want to win. We all want to win.
Do you think your championship mindset is being matched organizationally? Do you see that? Do you feel that?
I mean, I sure hope so. I think I know everybody's frustrated right now, so it's hard to. There's a disconnect during the season. We're all down here and focused on the day to day and trying to get better, and it's their job upstairs to focus on the big picture and where we need to go and who we need to be. So, I know they're committed to that.
Look, I just watched both of these press conferences back to back, and the contrast is insane. On one side, you got Joe Burrow, former #1 overall pick, supposed franchise savior, the guy who took the Bengals to a Super Bowl, sitting there basically admitting his team is broken. On the other side, Shedeur Sanders, the rookie who was disrespected all season, buried at third string, talking about how he just won the biggest mental battle of his life. But let's start with what actually happened on that field, because this game came down to the final seconds. Shedeur Sanders, in almost the exact same situation where he failed a couple weeks ago, gets the ball with barely any time left, game on the line, season potentially on the line for Kevin Stefanski. And what does this rookie do? He marches down that field like a veteran and sets up the game-winning field goal. Meanwhile, Joe Burrow, he's watching from the sideline as his defense gets carved up by a rookie who wasn't even supposed to be starting this year. And when Burrow got to that podium, you could see it in his eyes. This man is broken. Listen to what Burrow said about this loss. He literally called it a microcosm of how things have gone the last 2 years. A microcosm. That means this one game represents everything wrong with the Bengals. They expected to win, they had the talent to win, but they couldn't make the plays when it mattered. And here's where it gets wild. While Burrow is sitting there talking about organizational changes and questioning whether his championship mindset is being matched organizationally, Shedeur Sanders is in the Browns locker room talking about growth, talking about brotherhood, talking about overcoming spiritual battles. Burrow said, and this is a direct quote, "We certainly aren't where we want or need to be, not where I expect to be. We have to figure it out. We gotta figure it out." You hear that desperation in his voice? That's a man who's been carrying a franchise on his back and realizing it might not be enough. But check this out. When they asked Burrow about confidence in his organization, he couldn't even give a straight answer. He said, "I sure hope so," when asked if his championship mindset is being matched. "I sure hope so?" That's not confidence. That's doubt creeping in.
Yeah, I'm really proud of what I did this year. I came back from an injury faster than any human ever has. I'm really proud of that. I think I came back and played some really good football. I had one bad game, and you certainly don't want any of those, but I'm certainly not going to lose my mind over that. I think, when I came back, I played some really high-level football, and I'm certainly proud of what I did this year.
Now let me tell you what Joe Burrow admitted that nobody's talking about. He said he's really proud of coming back from injury faster than any human ever has. Okay, cool flex, but then he admits he had one bad game since coming back. But here's the thing, that one bad game, it might have been against Shedeur Sanders and the Browns. Because while Burrow's trying to convince himself he played high-level football, Shedeur just led a game-winning drive against him. And the excuses started flowing. Burrow talked about how they wanted to run the ball to mitigate the effect of their rush. He mentioned they moved the ball well, but then brought up a tipped ball interception and a fumble that gave the Browns 7 points. Bro, those aren't excuses. Those are mistakes that cost you the game. But here's what really shows you where Burrow's head is at. When they asked him about preparing for next season, about what needs to change, he basically admitted he hasn't figured it out yet. He said he needs to think critically about making changes. Meanwhile, Shedeur already made his changes. He overcame his mental battles, he leaned on his teammates, and he delivered when it mattered most. Let me contrast this with what Shedeur was saying after the game. While Burrow's talking about being frustrated and not getting joy from football anymore, Shedeur is talking about how his teammates came to him at halftime and said, "Nah, bro, get back to being you. This ain't you right now." And what happened? Shedeur came out in the second half and dominated. Shedeur revealed something that shows his mental toughness. I think the devil, of course, is going to attack you different ways, people around you and everything. And honestly, this whole year been a long year. It been ups, downs, it been different feelings. But instead of letting it break him like it's breaking Burrow, Shedeur said he learned how to deal with it. He said the biggest lesson of this year was mentally, and he achieved that and won that. Compare that to Burrow admitting, "I haven't gotten that joy out of this that I used to. The joy that I got was winning, and we certainly haven't had that success that we expect." One quarterback is finding joy through growth and brotherhood. The other is losing his love for the game because he's not winning. That's the difference between a rising star and a fading one. And let's talk about that final drive for a second. Shedeur described it perfectly. I think being able to go through the keys and reads, those are the stuff that I know like the back of my hand. So that's where reps and that's where all that different type of stuff come into play to where you're able to execute each and every play no matter what defense they're able to put out there.
You balance it every day.
Yeah, that's all the stuff that you weigh when you're making that decision. There is risk to go out there and potentially re-injure it, but there's also a risk to go out there and be 0-3. So I wanted to be out there for my guys, and I was confident that I would be able to do what I needed to get the win.
How much lobbying did you do to the decision makers throughout the course of the week to give them the confidence that you felt could make a play?
Yeah, once Friday, Saturday hit, I was pretty confident that I'd be able to do it. So I voiced that.
That's confidence. That's preparation meeting opportunity. That's a rookie showing a veteran how it's done. Meanwhile, Burrow's over here talking about how they couldn't throw the ball in the second half until it was too late. He admitted his receiver didn't have a catch in the second half until the last drive when they were already desperate. That's not championship football, that's panic football. But here's the part that really got me. Burrow was asked directly, do you have the same level of confidence in the organization as you did at the beginning of the year? And his response? We all want to win. That's not an answer, that's a dodge. And when pressed further about whether his championship mindset is being matched organizationally, he said there's a disconnect during the season between the players and management. A disconnect. While Joe Burrow was having disconnects with his organization, Shedeur Sanders is building connections with his teammates. Quinshawn literally showed up at Shedeur's house when he was going through a dark time. That's the difference between a team that's falling apart and a team that's coming together. And get this, Burrow actually said about the game, we certainly expect to win that game, and we didn't make the plays to do it. And you can say that for a lot of games over the last 2 years. The last 2 years! This man just admitted they've been choking games for 2 years straight. Meanwhile, Shedeur is out here in his rookie season learning how to close games, learning how to overcome adversity, learning how to lead. When Shedeur talked about that game-winning drive, he said, I think we got back to being who we are, and not really going at them like a certain way, which that was good, but sometime it just didn't fit my eye, and I wasn't able to get through my reads quick enough, or play like really fast and on time. Even when he's critiquing himself, he's showing growth, he's showing awareness, he's showing the ability to adjust mid-game. That's what champions do. But Burrow, when asked about staying healthy, he basically threw his hands up and said, I don't know if there's anything I can do about that. He said maybe he'll make changes, maybe he won't. That's not determination, that's resignation.
Change my desire to win. If I want to keep doing this, I have to have fun doing it. I've been through a lot, and if it's not fun, then what am I doing it for? So that's the mindset I'm trying to bring to the table. I've been through more than most, and it's certainly not easy on the brain or the body, so just trying to have fun doing it again.
Here's what's really crazy, though. Shedeur admitted he was dealing with spiritual warfare, mental battles, and still found a way to win. He said, the main battle and the main thing that the challenge was for me today is what's going to happen whenever you face adversity. Whenever you're not seeing it good, whenever you're a little bit slow on things, like what are you going to do? And what did he do? He overcame it. He led that game-winning drive. He proved he's built different. Meanwhile, Burrow's talking about how he works really hard at this, but it's a hard pill to swallow when he keeps getting injured and losing. One quarterback is swallowing pills, the other is swallowing victories. And can we talk about the leadership difference real quick? Shedeur talked about being that source for his kicker before the game-winning field goal. He said, there was no doubt in my mind that he was going to make that field goal. I knew 10 out of 10 he was going to make it. That's a leader building up his teammates. That's confidence spreading through a team. But Burrow? He spent half his press conference talking about needing changes, needing different players, needing the organization to do more. That's not leadership, that's pointing fingers. The most telling moment was when Shedeur said, I think we got each other's back. Without the defense, we wasn't going to be able to do anything, and I think without us as an offense being able to drive down the field, they did everything they could do. Team first, brotherhood, unity. Compare that to Burrow basically admitting there's a disconnect between players and management, talking about how it's their job upstairs to focus on the big picture. That's division. That's a house that's crumbling. And here's the ultimate proof of where these two quarterbacks are headed. When asked about happiness and joy in football, Burrow admitted, I haven't gotten that joy out of this that I used to. He said he's trying not to let losing affect all the other areas of his life. Bro, when football stops bringing you joy, when you're just trying to compartmentalize the misery, that's when you know it's over. But Shedeur, after everything he went through, the disrespect, the third string designation, the spiritual battles, he said, I'm thankful, it ended like that at all cost. Thankful, grateful, still finding joy in the journey. So there you have it. Joe Burrow sitting at that podium basically admitting his Bengals are broken, while Shedeur Sanders is celebrating the biggest mental and physical victory of his rookie season. One quarterback talking about disconnects and disappointments, the other talking about growth and brotherhood. One questioning if he can even stay healthy, the other proving he can overcome any adversity. This game wasn't just a Browns victory over the Bengals, it was a passing of the torch in the AFC North. Drop a comment and let me know, is Joe Burrow's window closing while Shedeur's is just opening? And smash that subscribe button because this Browns dynasty is just getting started.